All right. So AutoCAD tips and tricks. So a lot of these are going to be enhancements and also tips and tricks. Some of them you may know, some of them you may not know, and hopefully everybody who is present will get a little bit of valuable information out of a tip or a trick. Before I jump into all the different tips and tricks, I actually have 30 of them I want to try to present today in the hour that we have. For those who are not aware, we Repro Products have been around for quite some time, 35 plus years, and we are very diversified. We have a lot of different departments that do tons of types of services, from printing, production, for selling of small and wide format machines, multifunctioning devices. We have an Autodesk division where we sell and support Autodesk software, and we do training. We have a 3D laser capture, reality capture division. So we have scanners, and we can actually get serviced out to the job site to do scan jobs. We also sell Bluebeam Review PDF software. I'm an actual Bluebeam certified instructor. We have a sister company called The Color Spot, and they are located in Marietta. They deal with graphics and signage and wayfaring, things like that. And so, if you are local to our offices in Georgia, Smyrna, and Marietta, if you want to stop by when you have time, just pop in and ask anybody for a quick tour, and we can help you with getting acquainted with all the different things that we provide as a company. A lot of our clients still to this day aren't aware that we have so many different avenues of capability. And just double check the website when you can as well. And there's tons of training all the time as well. So let's take a look. I'm going to run through the PowerPoint slide and show you, tell you what the tips and tricks are quickly. And then I'll throw it to the side, and then we'll get into the Autodesk application to do each one. The first tip is the Edit Attribute dialog box has now been adjusted to have 15 lines of capability as compared to 8. There are a lot of windows in AutoCAD now that you can resize, especially the Insert dialog box, so you can actually see a larger preview. So other boxes such as Insert, Open, Page Setup Manager, Layer State Manager, those are adjustable. The Start tab will cover all of that information. What's new features are now actually highlighted with a dot, and you can see them here. Snapping to gaps, so you actually have a system variable now where you can turn on or off to be able to select objects within a gap of a dashed line or not. You have the ability to adjust the hatching to be sent to the front or to the back. You actually have the ability to create layers just for the hatching aspect. And you don't always actually have to double click on an attribute to edit the data. You can actually hold the Control key down. There is a new feature called Dim Reassociate, which allows you to see any overridden dimensions, and it'll fix them automatically. There is a system variable for the pedit command. You have the ability to use the Control key to do subobject selection for certain content. We'll cover layers and how to export them out to Excel. We'll cover how to take the Excel content and bring it into AutoCAD tables. And we'll also cover how to take an AutoCAD table and convert it to Excel. And then there's another little tidbit on how to work with viewports within model space quickly and easily. We'll look at the differences between workspaces and profiles and how to export that data. If you ever have your AutoCAD acting funky graphical user interface-wise, we can always reset it. We'll get into the A360 Shared Design View capability, which is kind of nice. And then we'll cover the Q-Select Filtering command, which is an old command, but not a lot of people remember or use it much. Also, you can actually clear the Windows clipboard to help free up some memory and help AutoCAD run a little bit easier. The rename command is an old command, but it's a great command because you can rename practically all this content that you want within your file. We have a QDIM command, which has actually been around for quite some time to do some very quick dimensioning. And the mid between 2 points, object snap, which is a great object snap. It's been around for a little while, and some people don't realize that it's there, and I'll show you the difference between that versus geometric center. And then the boundary command, which is a great old school command as well, to do some interesting work. We'll look at dimensioning angles that are past 180 degrees. And we'll look at how to control and adjust the wheel of the zoom and speed on your mouse, as well as being able to just drag and drop files in AutoCAD now, and being able to lock down your tool palettes if you don't want anybody to mess them up. And then the last two is being able to change your license type because you have that capability as well. And lastly, to be able to set up your icon to open up AutoCAD to a specific profile and or a specific template. Those are all the tooltips we're going to actually cover. And so let me throw this over to the left side. And I'm going to minimize my chat, and I'm going to minimize my Q&A for now, and a few other windows so that we can get started. All right, so the first tip is the attribute dialog box. So when I'm here in AutoCAD, I have a file that I'm going to be using in multiple files. And if we work with the command attribute edit, and we select this particular block, we can see that the edit attribute dialog box now is much longer, and it'll hold up to 15. So it'll display up to 15 lines of data for you to input whatever you need to input. And that also applies when you're actually inserting the block object for the first time. This window will open up and you can actually input that much more data, whereas before it only went up to 8. Resizable windows, so if I go to the Insert tab and I click Insert, you'll notice that not only do you have a preview window of any blocks that you currently have, but if you click More Options, the Insert dialog box will open up and you can resize this, and it will actually increase the size of the preview window as well. So this is pretty nice to be able to adjust this. If you have the Open Dialog Box command visible, you can also resize this as well. Sometimes it's small and it's kind of hard to see your list here, so you can expand that. You have the Page Setup Manager. And this here, if you click down here, you can also control the size as well. If you click Modify to get into the page setup, this window is not adjustable. I can't left click and drag this to make it any larger. And then the Layer States Manager. That window is also resizable. So it's quick and it's easy to make those window adjustments. The next tooltip we have is the Start tab. I'm going to actually close AutoCAD. And when we start up AutoCAD, you'll notice that there is a new tab called Start. And this tab gives you a lot of rich data and content for you to work with. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. If you don't like it, you can turn it off. There is a system variable called Start Mode, all one word, and you can set it to 0. The default is 1. If you set it to 0, AutoCAD will not start up with the Start tab, and it'll ask you just to start with a regular AutoCAD file. I leave mine turned on and the default, that way for training and teaching purposes everybody can understand. So the Start tab is here, and you can see it has a Create and a Learn. On the Create portion, you have the ability to start a new drawing, open up files, open up sheet sets, get more template files, drill down to other template files to work off of. You have recent documents and how you display that data. And you have notifications and how to connect to your Autodesk A360 account information. If you click Learn here, or if you click Learn over here, it slides over and it gives you content such as new features overview videos, update feature videos, getting started videos, feature videos, a learning tooltip each time you get into AutoCAD, and then also resources as well. And again, like I said, if you don't like to have that, all you need to do is when you're in a standard command, a standard AutoCAD file, you type in start mode, hit enter, and then change it to 0. Again, I'm going to leave mine to 1 for now. New in 2017, if there are any new features, it actually has in the upper right-hand corner where the question mark for the help is, if you expand the little arrow, there is a highlight new features, and it's checked by default. And what that means is that if you look through, you should see some red dots on areas that are brand new. So for example, here under the Insert tab, if you have Express Tools turned on, there may be some here as well. If you uncheck it, then those dots will disappear. I have noticed that if you uncheck it and they disappear and you check it again, it doesn't come back. And that just has to do with the graphical user interface not resetting properly, and which is another tooltip that we'll cover in a little bit later on how to get all that information back. Snapping to gaps. Let's do this. Oh, let's do another tooltip that's really quick and easy. We're going to grab all these files. Instead of within AutoCAD, file open and open up all the files, just grab all the files that you want in Windows Explorer, drag and drop into AutoCAD, and it will open up all the files quickly and easily. And I'm going to, and you can see that the multiple files are open up, and you can actually, sort them and move them wherever you want in the order that you need. So, when you're working, it makes life a little easier for you. So when I talk about snapping to gaps, if we zoom in here, there's a P line here for a boundary, and it's a dashed or hidden line type. By default, if I try to select this via window crossing like this, it will pick it even though my window selection is in between, is inside that gap, if you will, and it actually can pick that. That's a system variable that you can turn on and off. So if I type in LT gap selection, by default it's 1. If I set it to 0 and I hit enter, if I try to do the window crossing again now, in between the gaps, it will not pick that data. It cannot see that data. But if you touch the actual entity, it'll select it. Some people like to have this on. Some people like to have it off. The default is on, so I'm going to leave it on, again, for training and teaching purposes. There is the ability, when you create hatches, to take those hatches and move them to the front or send them to the back. And that's done with the hatch command. And if you head under properties, there are other tooltips here as well, but I'm going to head over to options initially. And we can set it to be behind the boundary or in front of the boundary, and we can also send it to the back and bring it to the front. If you want to, when you're working with existing hatches, you can see here I've drawn these purposely so that the hatch is in front of the text. And if you just type in the command hatch to back, then it automatically just grabs all the hatches and pushes them to the back. And it makes life a little easier. I think this had to go back to the old school days of when we had Reprographics pen plotters, and it would plot and draw the hatching on top of the text, and that was because of the order in which objects were drawn. So this command is very helpful in that respect. Let me pause for a second and let me double check my chat and Q&A window, because I only have so many screens. Okay, good, no questions so far. So the next is also in regards to hatch layers. There is a system variable that you can type in HP layer, and it allows you to put in a value for the layer of the hatch that you want. So let's put in, let's say, I'm going to say test 2 and hit enter. Now that I've done this, when I actually do the hatch command, I'm going to use 0 as my current. And if I go to the layer dialog box, you're not going to see anything here in regards to that one that I just created. This command is a little funky in the sense that it gives you the ability to specify the hatch and what layer you want that hatch to be on, but you have to create it first here in the dialog box, layer dialog box. So if I create one and we call it test 99, and we set that color to be whatever we want, say green, even though my current layer is 0, when I go to hatch, in the properties dialog box, you'll see it says use current. You can set that to be the test 2 that we created earlier or the test 99 that we created within the layer dialog box. So if I choose this one and I specify the hatch, it'll create the hatch. And if I look at it and go to its properties, it says it's on test 99. Now the color is not by layer because if we head over to the properties palette here, my default was, the last time I worked with it, was set to magenta, not by layer. So if I switch this back to by layer, it'll go back to its by layer. And that's how to work with creating a hatch where you specify its own custom layer to put that hatch on. A lot of times when we take a look, here's another tool tip. When we have a attribute block and you double click it, it gives you this enhanced attribute editor dialog box, which you can also resize. And you can get in here and you can click each one and start typing and making those changes, or going to text options or properties and making those adjustments. Sometimes it's actually easier if you just hold the control key down on your keyboard and pick an entity. And if you double click with the control key on pressed down, you can actually input in here whatever you want, say, floor panel. So you don't actually have to double click and go into that dialog box. You can just hold control key down, double click the one that you want, and then make the change. So some people like that. That's a little faster. It's a good tool tip to use. There's another tool tip called dim Reassociate. And what I mean by this is, here is a drawing. We've got a floor plan view. We've got some dimensions that are here that are already created. I purposely had the colors changed here to a different color yellow so we can visibly see, for the purposes of today's webinar, which dimensions have been overwritten, just from an initial visual. But the reality is, a lot of people, when they override a dimension, they're not going to change the color. It may be the same color as the original other dimension style, so you can't really tell what dimensions have been overridden. But if you type in dim Reassociate, not associate, and then it'll ask you to select the objects that you want to select. So I'll go in here and I'll just pick all of these, and I'll hit, and you'll notice it only picks those dimensions. It doesn't pick anything else, and it highlights the ones that are messed up, that have been altered. If I click enter, it'll finish picking them, and it will automatically reset them back to their default proper dimensions. And so this is kind of a neat tool for you to fix all the dimensions very quickly and easily. It's always wise never to override a dimension, by the way. And if you don't do that, you wouldn't have to worry about using this command. But from a BIM manager standpoint, it's a good way to double check to make sure anybody hasn't overridden any dimensions. Another tool tip is, when we have a whole bunch of lines that we've drawn from end to end, and we want to turn it into a polyline, we type in pedit, we select a line, and it asks us, do you want to turn it into one? This default is always turned on and always is yes, so you have to hit enter to accept, and then join, and then pick everything, and then hit enter, and enter again, and you're done, and now you have a P-line. That question that pops up gets to be very annoying for a lot of people. So I'm going to undo this so they're back into individual lines. And if you type in pedit accept, a new system variable, and change it from 0 to 1, then what ends up happening is, as you do the command now, it automatically assumes that you want to turn it into a P-line. And it goes directly into making it a P-line. and then you can continue your command. So in essence, you're really saving like 2 clicks. It doesn't seem like much, but over time, if you have to do a lot of this, then it does help quite a bit. You can, if you're working with P-lines, hold the control key down and pick a subobject selection. For example, this segment here, because if you don't hold the control key down and you pick the P-line, it picks the whole thing. So you can actually hold the control key down and pick this one particular entity if you need to. And then, since you already have it selected, subobject selected like this, you can hit the delete key, and it will get rid of that one particular portion. That system variable command is called legacy control pick, and it's set to you can set it to either 0 or 2. The default is 2. Okay. Now let's take a look at layers and the list of layers, and you want to take it to an Excel file. What's the quick, easy way to do this? If I open up the layer dialog box, I can just say Control A to grab everything, Control C to copy to the clipboard, open up Excel, and start a new file, Control V. So you can very quickly copy paste the data from the layer dialog box into an Excel file. And the next tooltip is, how about taking the Excel file to an AutoCAD table? The approach that most people do that is the most sound approach is they will head over to the Annotate tab, Table command, and they'll create it from a data link. And so they can either select one that's already made, or they can make one themselves from here. So since I already made one, I'm going to use the test one. And it'll give you a preview, and then you can click OK, and then place it, and then it gets placed. So that's a quick way to take an Excel file and bring it into AutoCAD. Now let's look at that data link, if you will. So if I click Link Data and I click Test, you can see that it is called Test, and it's pulling that particular file. So what if I want to make a new one? I can just click Create a new Excel data link, call it whatever I want, call it Test2. It will ask us to browse for the file, so we browse to the file that we want. And let's use this sample file. We'll click Open. And what ends up happening is it will make the data link, and it will ask you which particular sheet to work with. So let's try this inventory pick list. And if I head over here, the inventory pick list is this one right here. So once that's created, I click OK. That link is created. Here's the preview. I click OK. My data link is created. And now when I create the table, I can create it from that data link. I click OK, and then I put it in, and I have the information. Now, you'll notice that the text is pretty dark here. That just has to do with how the Excel file and the font color is in relationship to the color background. So if I change my color background to something lighter, you'll see the text because that's black right now. What about, you can also copy and paste Excel data, a selection of an Excel data into AutoCAD table as well. So that's kind of another approach to look at it. So let's head over to the Excel file. And let's say I head over to the bin lookup. I'm going to do a window selection like this, and Control C to copy to the clipboard. I can then go over here into the AutoCAD drawing and head over to Paste over here, and paste to Special, and choose AutoCAD Entities. Click OK, and it automatically puts it in as a table. And this is a little easier to see. Now, the caveat to doing it this way, be very careful, because when you're in the Excel file, if you just say select the whole thing like this, you're going to basically break AutoCAD because it's going to try to look at everything over here and all the cells. You don't want that. Just do a window crossing of just the area that you want to copy to the clipboard. And let's see. If you have an AutoCAD table and you need to export it to Excel, for example, this is an AutoCAD table right here. You can select it, right-click it, choose Export. It will export it out as a CSV file type. I'll put it under temp for now, and we'll call it Table 1. Once that's finished, you can go to your Excel application, and you can open up that particular file. So we'll browse to my CTemp folder, and it's not going to list it initially. Just change your file format, and then you'll see the Table 1 CSV. Hit Open, and there's your data. It automatically comes in. There won't be anything special in regards to formatting, but it's a quick, down dirty way to get your data out of the table and into Excel. Let me do a quick stop and check any chat or Q&A window questions. Lines entities can be applied. I'm not sure. We have a question under the Q&A window from David, and it says line entities can be applied. I'm not sure what exactly is the question. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you can elaborate a little bit, I might be able to understand the question, and then I can answer it. So while David's trying to gather that thought, let's go ahead and keep going. About halfway through with my tips and tricks. So on to tips and trick number 15. You notice here in this particular file that I'm working with, I've got 3 different viewports at 3 different views. And you can do this normally by going to the View tab and going to Viewport Configuration and picking any one of these that you want, and it'll make the change. You can also click Named here and jump into here and specify the one that you want as well, and it will show you what you have when the end result is finished. If you do it this way, you can actually click into each one of these cells and make whatever changes you want in regards to the visual style and the setup being 2D or 3D. Okay. The tooltip that I'm talking about today is if you head over to any one of these viewports, you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner a plus symbol and some text. And if I hit the little plus symbol, you'll see Viewport Configuration List is located here as well. So it's a quick, easy way to get to that. And if I do 3 right, it'll make the necessary changes. But doing it this way doesn't afford the ability for you to make adjustments to how the display of each one is supposed to look and show the data prior to it making it. So you'll just have to go to each one and manually adjust it to whatever view and position you want, and which you can do with the view cube, or you can do with the text here. And you can also adjust the visual style by using the text here as well. And so, for example, this could be, the top, and this could be the front, and this could be the, isometric view. Workspaces and profiles. And you know what? Let's switch this back to single for now. When we talk about workspaces and profiles in AutoCAD, these are tools that help you with, number one, the front-end graphical user interface and how things look and appear, and being able to save that design so that you can use it anywhere you want on any other workstation, but also so that if something goes wrong with your graphical user interface, you can reset it. That's workspaces. Profiles does the same thing, but it goes deeper. It works on the back end of the software as well, things that you don't visibly see. So for workspaces, I can head over to the quick access toolbar and make sure it's turned on by hitting a little check mark here. And it shows up here. Or I go to the lower right-hand corner and you'll see workspace switching is here as well. If you hit the little white arrow, you'll see that there are different ones that are made for you as a default, drafting annotation, 3D basics, 3D modeling. And you can set up your display however you want and how things are to appear, for example, tool palettes, whether you see the ribbon, whether you see the text, anything that you want. Set it up the way you want, and you can save it to whatever workspace name you want. Let's call it today's workspace custom, and hit save. What ends up happening is that it captures everything and makes that the current workspace. So if I click, say, 3D Basics, everything switches to the 3D Basics. And you can see it looks very different in the ribbon. I can also click a different one, say 3D Modeling, and that changes, and now it looks like this. And if I switch it back to the workspace I just created, it will look like this. If you click the actual icon for Workspaces and go to Customize, excuse me, you can get into the CUI to get to the different workspaces, and you can right-click and you can delete, rename, and do a whole bunch of stuff with it. Okay. In regards to profiles, we can right-click the command line and go to Options, and head over to the Profiles tab. Here it lists the profile that you have as a default. It's called Unnamed Profile. You can set it current. You can add to the list another one. You can rename, delete, so on and so forth. And I made one called My Custom Profile. And I can click it and say Set Current. It becomes the current profile. I can export that out as well to anywhere that I want. I'll put it under CTemp. And we'll call it Custom Profile 1 Test. And it's an ARG file type. So once you have it saved, you can take these ARG files and put them on your server. And that way, when you jump to another workstation, you can start up AutoCAD, and then you can click Import and go get that file. So if I browse back over to the temp folder, I can see that I have that ARG file. And if I click Open, it'll bring it back in. And it's a good way to keep tabs of all the different profiles that you have. You know, it's from an IT CAD management standpoint, it makes sense to have multiple profiles, one for the office standard, one for the specific end user who's using that computer all day, and maybe one as a backup. And then you can take all of these profiles for each of your end users, those ARG files, and put them on your server. So you can jump from one station to another and input that data to all the workstations so everybody's consistent. From an end user standpoint, I'm working today on my computer and I have that custom profile. And then I realize, oh, my computer's down. I need to jump to a coworker's computer. I can jump to that coworker's computer and import mine, which I stored on the server, and now I can use the AutoCAD on my coworker's computer, just as though I'm on my own computer. Makes life, a lot easier and simpler, because we all know that AutoCAD, you can customize it out the wazoo. Let me jump real fast to chats and Q&A just to see if there's anything. Okay, none. Good. All right, so the next tip is resetting your graphical user interface. So if at any point in time you get all wonky on your interface and things just don't seem to work right, close AutoCAD, go to Start, go to All Programs, Autodesk, go to AutoCAD, and click this button that says Reset Settings to Default. And it will take it back to when you first installed AutoCAD. If you have any third-party add-ins, you may have to reinstall those. So let's do that. I know for a fact that I have Bluebeam Review PDF software creation add-in installed here under AutoCAD. So if I close my AutoCAD, and I go to Start, All Programs, Autodesk, AutoCAD, and I hit Reset, it's going to ask us to back up and reset or just reset. I don't need to back up. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to hit Reset. And it resets it back to its original. It takes a tad second or two. When it's finished resetting, it will actually open up AutoCAD and show it to you as though you just started using it for the first time without the first initialization run sequence. And you'll also notice that all your recent documents are no longer listing here, and everything looks very clean and simple, as you can see. If I head over to my Output tab, you'll notice my Bluebeam is no longer there. So you have to make sure that if you decide to reset your AutoCAD graphical user interface doing this, you may have to install third-party apps back onto it, which for me, for the Bluebeam, is not that hard. I just head over to Administrator and check the AutoCAD. It's still running. Retry. And OK. So now that I've done that, I should have no problems with starting up AutoCAD again and having my third-party application add-in installed. So if I go to the Output tab, I have my information back. Okay, so let's go ahead and take these and pull them in. So that's a fast way to open up all these files that I need. I don't need drawing 1 anymore. I don't need this one anymore. And I'm on number 17. So number 17 is the reset, which we just covered. Tooltip number 18 is sharing your design view via A360. So those of you who are not aware, when you purchase any of your Autodesk products, you do have online cloud services and capabilities. There's tons of it. I do a different presentation on that stuff. But here in AutoCAD, there is a tab called A360 that allows you to click Share Design View. And it will ask you whether you want to publish and display the data now or publish it and just email me when it's done. I'm going to click Publish and Display Now because this file is fairly quick. And so AutoCAD does its thing. When it's done, it actually opens up your browser, pushes up the data, and puts it into your A360 online server, if you will, file server, if you will, and displays the data to you in the universal A360 viewer. And by the way, this A360 viewer can view any Autodesk file. Just drag and drop it into this window, and you can see the data. So you don't actually have to have the actual Autodesk software on your computer to see content, Autodesk file content. The beauty of doing it, of sharing this content like this, is that you can see the 2D views, you can see any 3D views, you can see any sheets, and you can actually start doing things like measure and mark up. And depending on what you want to do, you can share that information. You can add comments, send the link out, print it, capture a screen capture, save it to your A360 online account, tons of stuff. And we actually, like I said, I do a different presentation for the A360 online stuff. The next tooltip is the QSelect command. So I don't need this file anymore. I'm going to close that file. And so there's an old school command called Quick Select. It's a filtering type of tool. It allows you to look and hunt for different things within your AutoCAD file. Here I have a very crazy, messy file. There's a lot of content in here. And you need to find something that fits a certain criteria. And you can use the QSelect command to do this. This is located in 2 locations, in the Utilities panel here, called Quick Select, or in the Properties panel. So if I go to the View tab and turn the Properties panel on, I'm going to anchor it left, and the command is here as well. You can start the command, and you can tell the software to look at the entire drawing or just the area that you pick. You can tell it to look for a specific object type. So I'm going to say a block reference. And I'm going to set it up so that it looks at the name that's equal to the block that I have in here. And I click OK, and it will find all of those blocks, and it will put them into my selection set so I can actually do whatever I need to do, for example, move them out of the way. This is actually I don't know if they still have it as part of the AutoCAD certification exam question, but it was one of the questions. And they give you a really crazy, messy drawing, and they ask you to look for certain line types of a certain color. And you have to use, the only way to do it is the QSelect command. You can try to do a giant window selection of all of your data, but then you sit and you wait for it to process. Then you head over to the Properties palette, and you'll see it says Varies. And if you have Quick Properties turned on, then you might be able to use Quick Properties feature to filter. And here it says I have 18,000+ objects. But if I look carefully, I can see block reference, and I can see 5. So that's kind of another way to search for it, but it takes a long time. And you might get some erroneous errors. A lot of times when you're working in AutoCAD, the temporary Windows clipboard gets full because you're copying and pasting quite a bit of stuff, not just in AutoCAD, but also in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Autodesk applications. You can actually clean up this Windows clipboard. You can basically clear the memory of it. And so if you go to Start, Run, and you type in CMD space /C echo space off, the vertical symbol, I'll do a space, vertical symbol, space, clip. And this is in the tooltip, don't worry. And I hit OK. It basically dumps that Windows clipboard memory. And it makes AutoCAD run a little faster. Tooltip number 21, the rename command. So I have a drawing here, and I can just use rename, hit enter, and it opens up this dialog box, which you can also resize. And you can click any one of the category of content that you need. So for example, under blocks, we have all these different blocks in here. So I can pick that door and rename it to, DR999 and hit rename, and it renames it. If you, do this and you type in that and you click OK, it doesn't rename it. You actually have to click, type in the value, and click rename to. So it updates and changes it here. And then you click OK and you're done. So it's a nice tool to use to rename a whole bunch of stuff at one time. Maybe you have to dimension some stuff and you really don't have time to be methodical about dimensioning things. You just want to do a quick dimension. That's another tool tip. That's the number 22. And that QDim command is actually an old command. I think it was as far back as release 14. So you can just type in QDim or click this icon right here under the Annotate tab. And depending on the visual style or the annotation style that you're working with, you can set it. Pick the entities that you want to dimension, say for example this. Click and hit enter and drag up and it will place the dimension. Now if I use a non-annotative style, say standard, and do it again, it'll put in that dimension as well. Let's go ahead over to the D-size sheet where I have my viewport set up properly and the annotation scale set up properly. Now if I do this off of the architectural annotative style and do the QDim, let's do it for that. We can head over here, click, and it puts it in automatically. So it's a good quick way to do a whole bunch of dimensions. You just have to be methodical about it in the sense of after the fact, clean up what you don't want. Let me jump over to the chat and the Q&A window really quick to see if there's any questions. What add-ons do you recommend from third parties? There's actually a ton of add-ins that are available. The good thing that Autodesk has been working diligently on for the past couple of years is that any third-party add-ins, when you install them, will go into the add-ins tab of the ribbon unless they have it specifically built with its own separate tab. So it'll be consistent here. The tab that you saw me working with earlier, which is Bluebeam Review, that's PDF software, that's a default that I have. It's a given. I buy that. Because I'm a Bluebeam certified instructor, I get my own copy, and so I put it in and I work with it. If you're interested in other third-party apps, there's this button up here called Autodesk Exchange Apps. And if you do this, it will open up Autodesk Apps, Exchange apps, that's the Autodesk App Store. It's like iTunes apps and Google Play apps. There's tons of them in here. There's most popular, featured new app. You can sort by AutoCAD. You can sort by other applications. Find what you want. There's tons in here. Some of it's free. Some of it costs a lot of money. Okay, I've seen it as cheap as free and as much as $500. And it's just a matter of finding the ones that you want to work with and use. Most popular paid, most popular, this would be a good starting point here. I do know some people use AutoCAD and Google SketchUp quite a bit, and I think this is a plugin for importing and exporting SketchUp files a little easier from the Google SketchUp side. So that's an avenue for you to go to. I don't really have a lot of Addons installed just because I have so much Autodesk stuff that I have to keep up with that I try not to experiment with third party, unless it's somebody says, oh man, you got to really, really try this. So good question, good question. The next tooltip is mid between 2 points. So I have a situation here where that's a column, and I want to draw a circle inside the center, dead center of that column. It's not that terribly hard to do. Most people will draw a line from here to here, and then they'll start the circle command, and they'll have O snaps turned on, hit the midpoint, and then draw a circle. That's one way. Okay. Another way is to start the circle command, hold the shift key down, right click, and pick mid between 2 points. And pick 2 points, and it draws a circle. Some people would prefer they have their object snaps turned on and say turn on geometric center. And so if I start the circle command, I can actually find the geometric center, assuming that this is allowable. That geometric center works better a lot of times when it's strange objects like this, surprisingly. So if I draw a circle, start the circle command, I can see that geometric center and draw that. So the mid between 2 points is good for, finding the midpoint between 2 points that you specify. In this situation here, another approach could have been for me to start the circle command and excuse me, use object snap tracking, 2 point, like this, and draw the circle. But mid between 2 points is a little faster, and it's been around for a while. What if you are working with the software and you have a situation, let me delete this, where you want to start drawing this floor plan and the walls in 3D. In other words, give it some 3D height, thickness. Right now it's dead flat like that, okay? Let's rotate it, let's zoom in, and we'll just look at a certain area, say this area here. You can type in the boundary command, BO, and hit enter. Pick a point, and if you kind of put your cursor in there, click it, it'll create that boundary. Hit enter, and you're done. And if you do this, then you can select the boundary, and you can get a lot of property value information. And it tells you a lot of rich data, area, length. But for the purposes of taking and extruding this boundary line up to give that wall a sense of 3D thickness, we can actually switch over to turning on 3D tools and using the press pull. The press pull will see the boundary line, select it, and automatically ask for a Z height, so I'll put in 8 feet, and I hit enter and I'm done. So if I head over to 3D ISO, you can start to see that it's a quick, easy way to start giving three-dimensionality and thickness to content. This press pull is really neat, but in order to do that, we need the boundary. So if I try to do press and pull, say, over here. If I try to do a press and pull and I pick just that line, it only press and pulls just that line. It doesn't press in between, okay? So the boundary command, which is the tooltip today, helps with that quite a bit. Another way to think about using the boundary tool is maybe you need to know the area of this open space here without drawing everything. Drawing the boundary line is kind of annoying. So type in boundary, click pick point, pick a point, and it'll draw it. And once it's drawn, you should be able to select it. And you should be able to go to properties, and it should give you area. So it's a kind of a neat quick down dirty way of doing it. This is the only caution I have with the boundary command is that if you have an open gap somewhere, because if there's an open gap, it'll run outside that gap and it'll start to cause hiccups with AutoCAD if that gap is too big. Oh man, I gotta hurry up. It's 3:24. Okay, dimension angle is greater than 180 degrees, which is down here. So we'll switch over to D-size sheet. And in order to do this, we'll delete this one. We'll head over to annotate. We'll do the angular dimension command. And there is an option here called specify vertex. So if I just hit enter, it allows me to specify that vertex. So I'll pick that corner. I'll pick this and here to display and tell the software it's that line initially going around this way to this point here for that line, and then I can click and place it. Okay. Mouse wheel zoom speed. There is a system variable called zoom factor. The default is 60. If I switch it to 3, which is the lowest setting, my zooming with my mouse wheel is really, really slow, and it's really, really small and granular like this. But if I do the zoom factor to its highest setting, 100, and I scroll the wheel, it jumps drastically. Okay, so I'm going to switch it back to 60, a little bit more reasonable. Think of this as, for those who are in the gaming, I have a Razer gaming mouse, and I can actually set the DPI resolution on the fly from as low as 1800 as high as 16,000. And so that's what this is doing to a degree. Just a couple more tooltips and we're done. Open and drag, we just talked about that. So you can use Windows Explorer, grab all the files you want, drag and drop it into AutoCAD, and it'll open up all the files quickly and easily. You don't have to go here and say file, open, or file, open, and do a window selection. Locking the tool palettes. Here we have the View tab of the ribbon. Tool palettes, I turn it on. You can see that they're here. We'll anchor left, and you can see by default, I can adjust them and I can make any changes that I want. I want to lock this down. The way to lock this down is to find where this file is and turn it into a read-only file. How do I do that? Right-click, Options, Files, scroll down, head over to Tool Palettes, and look for that path. It's here. So we're going to go to that path. C drive, Users, Zon, App Data, Roaming. I know, it takes forever to get to. I know. Autodesk, AutoCAD 2017, R21, ENU, Support, Tool Palettes. There's your file. Take it, right-click it, go to Properties, and change it to Read Only. Once you do this, you'll have to get out of AutoCAD and get back in, but once you do, you'll have a little lock symbol in the lower right-hand corner. Okay, and that's how it becomes read-only. For the sake of time, I'm not going to get out of AutoCAD and come back in. Two more, and we're done. I know you guys have to run too. So, changing license types. So here in the upper right-hand corner, click it. You can go to About, go to Manage License. Now you have the ability to see License Manager, and depending on how your software is installed and the serial number and how it was purchased, you may have a button that allows you to click Change. Mine does not, because I'm an FR. And then lastly, for AutoCAD, if you want your AutoCAD software to start up to a specific template and or specific profile, easiest way to do this is, number one, show my icons. I don't like icons on my screen. So show the icons. Here's the AutoCAD, right? Right-click it, copy it, right-click it, paste it, rename it whatever you want, test, so you don't mess up the original. And I'll put that one back. So here, right-click this, go to Properties, and go over to where it says Target. And if you scroll over, you're going to see / something. So here I can actually put a space / T space quote, and then the name of the template file that I want, say acad.dwt. And then I can also do space / P for profile and put in the one that I want. So let's just say hypothetically I made a profile called Zon, and I hit Apply and OK. If I double click this icon, it will start up AutoCAD to that specific profile and that specific template file to use moving forward. Great for IT and great for a consistency standpoint. So I'm going to delete that since I don't need that anymore. And let me go ahead over to the chat and the Q&A window really quick. Will you please repeat how we can rewatch the seminar? Okay, the question is, how do we watch the seminar again? No worries. Shoot me an email when you have time. And my email address is right here, dta@reproproducts.com. And when I get your email, I will shoot you a link to the video, and you can click the link, and it will allow you to access the video, and you can watch it at your leisure. Let's see, what else? Any other questions? I think that's it. That was tight. That's 3:30. Last thing, call to action. For those of you who know me, I like to make sure that we tighten things up. So last tidbit is this. One, thank you very much for watching our webinar. I know it seemed really fast. It went by quick for 30 tooltips. We obviously are your resellers, and we provide all the software and the training and the consulting necessary and all of your software and subscriptions and things like that. If you need anything, you have any questions, give us a call. Ask for me or ask for your account rep, and we will do our best to take care of your needs. And thank you very much. I'm going to leave this up for 2 minutes. That's it, because I got to jump into another one in a second. But so if anybody needs to email me, here's my email address. But other than that, thank you guys very much. What about leaders? There's a question about leaders. AutoCAD. Leaders. Real fast. Real fast. Come on. Okay, go. I know. I need a faster machine. I know. AutoCAD takes forever to load up. If you have a solid state drive, by the way, it's ridiculously faster. Let me open up my class file. This AutoCAD. Where is it? Okay, so let's go to you and go in here, zoom extents, and switch this to a scale that makes sense. I don't know, inches equal to foot? No, that's too small. 6 inches, okay, that's fine. And I'll lock it. And go to properties and verify it's the same. Come on, mouse. Oh, come on, mouse. Yes. Okay. So leaders. Creating leaders is not that hard. Annotate tab, leader commands. Pick the style that you want to work with. Hit multi-leader, and pick and go. Here's the thing, though. You can add leaders to this as quickly and easily as you want, and it jumps across. You can also hold Control and pick a specific one, that Subobject Selection set, and switch its line style to something else or line thickness to something else, and even its color. Like that. I hope that answers your question about leaders, David. Other than that, you guys, thank you. Let me know a structural trick that I can apply in structural drawings. That we're going to have to think about. I don't have time for that today. Shoot me an email when you have time so we can discuss it tomorrow, and then I can help you with whatever you're trying to get accomplished. Okay? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.